Okay, so now that we've gotten into why this was the time to bring back Toonami, I feel it's important for people to understand that they only promised you Toonami. Technically, they only promised you the packaging. They didn't even really promise you Tom, but it seemed like that was a given. They
Yeah.
didn't promise us any shows in particular. What are your thoughts on this, Soul?
Well, tops, I think, in particular, yeah. For me, I feel, and I think in a lot of the fans, and even on Adult Swim and William Street's part, the April 1st airing, in reality, it was kind of a double-edged sword because I think it led to people's expectations of what Adult Swim Toonami would be right out of the gate. And nobody really thought of, well, how did they really even get DBZ and how they get Gundam Wing and how they get those shows all to air on one night. Obviously, it was just really an advertising deal for the DVDs, which I think is, DeMarco has said that's pretty much what the deal was. So yeah, as you said, no, they never promised anything. They never promised whatsoever outside of, yeah, well, what was it, the 16th, when they said Toonami's back, bitches. Okay, we're bringing it back. Yeah, that image of Tom 3.5. That's really all they said. Just, we're bringing back Toonami. They didn't say what shows. They didn't say this or that. I think after April 1st, especially Adult Swim action fans, us regular guys, I think we would have just been happy if they just threw that current lineup and just packaged Toonami around it. Just because if you had flipped on, or even after April 1st, but any time beforehand, you flipped it on Saturday night, Action Saturdays, Adult Swim Action, what would you see? You'd see these out of your mind, dumbass stoner bumps. Now, you guys are probably know the ones I'm talking about, with like that weird mannequin with the eyes popping out, just all that just really bizarre stuff that just did not fit Action Saturdays whatsoever. Which was always disappointing that they just stopped caring about Action Saturdays in terms of its packaging. I always loved that where they had like the shots of Tokyo and Japan. They would actually still say, Bebop is coming up next, or Inuyasha, or whatever. I always loved that stuff. But then after a while, I don't know what point it was probably around 2006, 2007, where they just kind of stopped doing those bumps altogether. Or even before that, where they would actually have kind of like a semi-Adult Swim action intro for specific shows. But I think it's, as Sketch has mentioned before, the ratings for anime on Adult Swim just kind of started taking a more of a nosedive. But yeah, I think the biggest thing is, did it really matter what shows they brought back? As long as it was Toonami, and I think even now, I still feel like, as long as it's Toonami, I don't really care to a certain degree, because William Street has always been great in terms of picking anime to air on Adult Swim Action, besides maybe Keikaishi. But in terms of Keikaishi, I really kind of feel that in terms of Keikaishi, which it gets a lot of hate, but I just can't really get into it that much.
I couldn't get into it either. I tried.
Yeah,
I give everything a shot, but Kakashi,
it just
too
seemed
generic
too
for
soft.
me.
Oh,
yeah,
you better not
really
be dissing on the soundtrack, Takayamazaki, baby.
And
Soundtrack was fine.
You even had what Vic was voicing with the main character, which is like,
which was
Vic
agonizing
Mignogna.
when he was both
Ed
character and
Ed, yeah,
in the same hour.
In the same hour, yeah. But with Keikaishi, felt like this needs to be on Cartoon Network Toonami. This needs to be at like 8 or 9 o'clock Saturday nights. But no, it wasn't. Which I still feel like Keikaishi, to end that, was probably just a deal for more Bleach episodes. That's pretty much what I'm sure that was. I think a lot of us, when Keikaishi first premiered, we thought it was with a packaging deal with Inuyasha the Final Act, which, well, still hasn't reared its head much, but which I still kind of feel like that should air, because I feel that's a certain amount of nostalgia that can bring more ratings to the block. And I never watched the Final Act, and well, I still feel that Inuyasha the Final Act probably be better than watching Bleach, honestly. So,
honestly, I think any other shonen pickup would be better than just having Bleach, to be honest.
Oh, we're not going to make this the Pick on Bleach podcast. There's already plenty of those.
Okay.
Yeah, once Bleach gets back into canon, because I stopped watching Bleach around like the early 200s anyway. Once it gets back into the canon, I'll watch it every week because I want to see that Aizen thing actually wrap up. But otherwise, to end the real comments and I'll let John speak, is like, yeah, Toonami on Adult Swim, great idea. The shows that they bring, I trust what William Strait, I trust what Jason DeMarco, Kim Manning, for the most part, brings on.
And Gil, don't forget Gil.
Yeah, and Gil, who like I know Jason and even Steve's mentioned the Gil. Is he just a William Street employee or what?
Yeah, he's a William Street employee. I assume he's probably working on Toonami.
Yeah, but I guess we've just never heard much of Gil outside of now. So, props to Gil for helping bring Toonami.
Gil Austin. That's
Austin. Gil Austin. Yeah. Stupid Gil at Stupid Gil on Twitter.
Uh-huh.
But all right. Your thoughts, John?
It's true. I mean, like, they never promised, like, oh, we're gonna bring back all the old shows again, and you know something? I guess we really should never have expected that. I mean, Toonami has always like been going on and evolving and like picking up new properties to test out. I mean, even though in a lot of cases, like when they tried to skew a bit younger, the shows didn't necessarily always work out. I mean, I have no idea if, like, you know, Bakugan and Blue Dragon were those attempts or not, or they were just like one, like, couple episode deal, but
well, I'd definitely take Blue Dragon over Bakugan. So.
Wouldn't we all? Bakugan only got 1 week. Blue Dragon got like 5. So I'd say Blue Dragon won.
I want to be honest, though.
I don't even remember Bakugan airing during 2008. It must have really just people did not want to watch it Saturday night.
It aired once on Toonami, and it replaced One Piece, which infuriated me.
I'm gonna be honest. Like, I'm gonna be honest with you. One of the things I valued about Bakugan was the original music on it,
which they didn't include.
Yes, and that made me have absolutely no reason to watch it after that.
Bakugan, I still don't even get the premise behind it. It just seemed like this combination of like Yu-Gi-Oh and Beyblade. It just seemed like those toygenic animes and
all
series
mashed together. Yes, that's exactly how it seems. And the thing that absolutely killed me, I was talking to Joe Casey, one of the men of action at Emerald City Comic Con this past April. And he said that they worked on Bakugan at some point. I was like, oh, you kidding me? The people that brought us Ben 10 and Generator Rex worked on Bakugan. That makes so much sense now.
There is also the fact that
yeah, they worked on Monsuno too.
Yeah. They've been working with several. Supposedly they have like more Asian productions they've worked on.
Well, people basically see the success of Ben 10 and go, "Hey, make our show work."
I can talk about Monsuno, but that'd be completely off subject, and let's
kind of not get off subject.
Yeah, that's a whole nother subject. Maybe we'll tackle some other time.
Yeah, we could probably talk about it in regards to Nicktoons kind of carrying the torch, but
yeah, but we'll get on that eventually. But as I was saying, like, Toonami's always evolved, and like, you know, they didn't always focus on nostalgia. Okay. Forgive poor English.
Old stuff.
Yeah.
Anyhow, I mean, to be fair though, I mean, Toonami did kind of start out as somewhat of a nostalgia block, but it always remained an action block for first most than anything else. I mean, it's still continuing to do that. So, I mean, I don't see any problems with that.
Which I think even Jason said, he's never really even made mentions in terms of it being a nostalgia block. If anything, it was Voltron and Robotech and Thundercats or whatever. To him and Sean and those guys when they first launched Toonami, I think it was just, this is cool stuff that we like. We can get it. We can put it on air. Let's do that.
Of course. I probably had
action cartoons.
And that is why Sean Atkins and Jason DeMarco are so beast.
But like I said, it was definitely like, action shows first most and first,
Which I still feel like, yeah, we need. I still feel like later on, hopefully in the next couple months, we can get Gundam Wing, Outlaw Star, or even Trigun, which technically I feel like Trigun's technically an honorary Toonami member now. But yeah, I think there was a certain bit of nostalgia just for older people to tune into. Hey, they were getting off of work or something, weekday afternoons. Hey, they're showing Voltron. Hell yeah, I'll watch that. That type of thing. It would be the same type of thing in kind of the same vein of them airing Gundam Wing. And oh, hey, I remember Gundam Wing way back in the day. I'll turn this on. Oh, what are they showing next? Dead Man Wonderland? What the hell is this? I'll watch this. It seems cool. So I think having those more older shows lead into new stuff, or even vice versa, just would be a great way to expose people to new stuff in general.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, on the subject of shows that are on the block, I recall correctly, back when it was Toonami, they did want to pick up Cowboy Bebop, but couldn't because of content.
Yeah, I think I think me and Sketch both have probably more stuff to talk about Cowboy Bebop on Toonami.
Oh yeah.
I think we get up. Yeah, we'll get. I think that's probably next up later on.
Oh, okay.
So we can get on to.
But
we'll get onto that later.
Yeah. But
True that. My personal opinion on this, they didn't promise us any particular shows. I guess people assumed because of the shows that aired on the stunt that they were promising those shows, particularly those shows. That that's fair for people to think that, but from a business standpoint, there's no way in hell that was going to happen. They bartered those shows one episode each for a DVD plug. Very smart business on their part, and I hope that they do more of that kind of thing to kind of try shows out. But for airing shows long term, it's hard to accomplish that through the same means. And as John said, Toonami was always changing. It rarely stayed the same. I mean, they brought back DBZ however many times, but that was because it was the old standby. That's like how Cowboy Bebop and Inuyasha stick around on Adult Swim. Yeah, so I don't really have any problem whatsoever if they never play any of the old Toonami shows. But the thing that I feel is some of those shows are so good that they could definitely find an audience again. And when you look at the old Bandai catalog, what's Bandai doing with those shows? They got some on Mnet, like Outlaw Stars on Mnet.
What is Mnet?
It used to be Imagine Asian TV.
And then it was, it was originally international. Was it originally international? Yeah.
It might have originally been the international channel where they played not subtitled. They played Raw Dragon Ball Z.
I thought Imagination got canceled altogether, though.
Actually, what's interesting, noting about Dragon Ball, what's interesting is, from I understand, all a Dragon Ball actually aired on International Channel Raw, which is, kind of interesting, considering it was airing dubbed at the same time, so.
Well, I think to finally kind of wrap a little bit up on the whole older shows and stuff.
Oh, there's one thing. There's actually one thing, though, I do want to state. They did say in the press release, and correct me if I'm wrong, they did say expect some old Toonami shows included, but I
don't think they ever did.
What did the press?
Well, yes, the press release was very misleading. The press release said they would air previous Toonami programming, and they were going to air new original anime production.
Yeah, what the hell is that about?
That's some very bad wording, because it turns out that meant shows that were already on Adult Swim Action and shows that were not already on Adult Swim Action.
Oh, okay. Oh.
Once again, I guess that's a fair complaint that they even put in a press release they would play old Toonami programming, and not a single show on this block was previously on Toonami. They didn't even keep the Big O on, which they'll probably bring back at some point.
Which
But
I
I
feel
want
like
people to consider that they will almost indefinitely play some of those old shows again. They just wanted to put new shows out first.
like in reality, I think even when you mentioned it yourself, Sketch, Toonami always went back to Dragon Ball Z. And I still feel eventually, especially they just pull up more ratings in general. The Funimation's original dub of Dragon Ball Z, it will air on Toonami. There's a lot of people who want Kai to air on Toonami, but I think the regular average Joes, the average casual fan of Toonami, they want Dragon Ball Z as they saw it. And I think that's what cartoon, Adult Swim would air if they did eventually later on down the road pick the rights back up to Dragon
I
Ball
can
Z.
see that go either way, but if they put on Kai, I'm sure there's going to be a vocal sizable amount of people to be like, "What's this crap? This isn't the Dragon Ball Z I watched.
Exactly.
Those voices
Exactly.
are all different.
They're too good for my taste.
Yeah, this acting is far too good for my taste.
Yeah, which it's just whatever. I think if it's gonna bring ratings to the block, that's great. As long as they still have new stuff coming down the pipe, as Tom always said. So I guess as long as it kind of leads into new stuff, it's whatever.
Yeah, pretty much.